like that.
Yes, I think they did.
And it just started up. So we're talking about weather and snows.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I have never seen any winters like we had when I was a kid on the farm,
Okay.
where we could tunnel under, make tunnels in the snow and go sledding all year round almost until spring, and go skating. And the roads would be drifted and impassable at times. But I think they've moderated a lot. The what was that other?
How did they clear the roads, like with snow? Did they have snow plows with horses, or did they, or did you just kind of?
No, I can't even remember about that. They must have had. I don't recall how that. I guess they just kind of waded through because they had horses, and they just.
The horses would just work themselves
Probably,
to the drifts then?
I guess, in many cases, because there was no mechanized removal that I can remember.
Did you have a sleigh? A family have a sleigh when you were
Yes,
young?
we had what they call a swell body, which is a rounded body instead of a square. And that's sold for 25 cents, I think, at our sale.
Oh, really?
I have the sale bill somewhere on our sale back in 1940, and corner cupboards went for 75 cents.
Oh.
You wouldn't believe it until you saw the prices on that, and that was in January on a bad day in 1940, a country sale. And I just can't, it just hurts me to see that thing.
Oh, sure.
When I know what they sold.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was in Wisconsin at the time.
Yeah, that's awful.
And of course, Wisconsin today is nothing. I could have been down here and back in the same day if I wanted to.
Sure. Now.
Now.
Yeah.
And it took all day practically to drive down. So I didn't get down very often.
The Institute or the state hospital.
I remember when that wasn't there, of course, and where I worked in the fields on our farm up on the hill, I could look across the valley and see them installing the framework for the water tower over there. And I saw that thing go up step by step from our field over there. So I remember that. I remember when they had an opening and the governor was there. I'm trying to think who it was. White, I believe.
Okay.
I'd have to double check on that, but the name comes to my mind, White. And one of my great uncles from Indiana was visiting us, and he was there. And all I remember that day was that he bought me a 5-cent bottle of Coke.
Okay.
And that was quite a treat.
Okay. Wow.
And then they had this opening ceremony, and then from then on, why, of course, it was the institution, and quite heavily populated at that time. Now, of course, I don't know, I guess there's people up there, but I haven't been up for years.
Not near as many, no.
No.
Did you have any interaction? Did they work on any of the farms in the area? Or did they ever escape, or did you ever have any?
I would hear cases of, occasionally when I was a kid, I would hear somebody that got away, that there was somebody that got away from the institution. And it seems like somebody found one of the men in his upstairs one time. That's the only thing I can remember. But I believe that that was from what we called the institution at that time. There's something else here I wanted to bring up, and I can't find it right now. Martin.
Your Uncle Lester Martin?
Lester.
Okay. What war was he in?
World War I.
Did you ever hear anything about him in World War One? I mean, stories about him.
I have souvenirs that he sent me from France.
Okay.
Yeah, I still have them downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
He sent me those, and then he wrote to his folks. I have his letters here and some cards that he sent from France.
Did the letters contain, I mean, what life was like, or what?
A little bit,
Mhm.
yeah. He was, he didn't see much action, but he saw some. And I remember he told me one time that he had to get down the ditch and hide one time because of some shooting going on right close to him. So he saw some action of some kind. I don't know just how much. We never talked much about it, and he didn't either.
Mm-hmm.
I never asked him a lot of questions, which I wish I would have.
I don't think people did back then, did they?
No, I think they were just glad to forget it.
Yeah. Did you hear? Was there any Civil War or any
No.
of your
No.
older ones?
No, that would be in Mennonite days. And,
Oh, that's right. They'd have had.
and they were not very fond of the army. And let's see.
Did you run into the oil wells in the area? I knew there were a few out on 30 drilled. I didn't know if you would run into any of them being drilled or any. And there was one over there on Weldy Road. One over where do I want to say?
Well,
Rhine Farm. There was a gas well that started.
Molly Ryan.
Yeah, over there by Molly Ryan.
Hofeckers,
Yeah, there you go.
Molly Ryan, Andy Weldy. I don't remember any of those, no. I remember those go chug, chug, chug in the morning real early from Worcester. I could hear those.
Oh, could you really?
Oh, yeah.
Up the valley, you mean? I mean,
When on the hill, when I would be working over there, I would hear the engines over in Worcester
mm-hmm.
on a clear day, a clear morning, and they would chug, chug, chug. Sometimes they would keep time with each other, and then other times they would be offbeat.
Okay.
So on, yeah, I
What?
remember that very distinctly. Also, I remember in Akron when I worked at Goodrich, I was living out in Bath Township up there north of town, and they started to drill wells up there all at once. About, when was it, 1980 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some doctors got together, and they had their own little oil drilling
Mm-hmm.
group so they could have something to do, with their money. And the place that I lived was 7 acres, and there was a bunch of us living back in the woods. And you had to have, I think, 20 acres
Mm-hmm.
to drill. So we combined them, and I doused for oil.
Did you? Okay.
And I got an oil well that they said was the best one of the whole bunch that they had.
Okay.
That sounds like I'm bragging, but that's what they told me. I don't know whether it was true or not.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a good well.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the early ones, and they were about broke in their business.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that well saved them,
Okay.
because the first day they started hauling oil out of there,
Mhm.
load after load after load. It just went on, and I knew, and everybody else said, they're going to just deplete that immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was back about 3 or 4 years ago, and the word I got was it's still running.
Mm-hmm.
They're still using it.
Could be.
Probably not nearly as
No.
much.
No, but it still could be.
And I also have to tell you that I doused for water too.
Who taught you how to douse?
I learned that myself through necessity.
Okay.
And there's a long story on that, but I won't bother you with it.
Well, that's okay.
But a friend of mine here in town, Mr. Caskey, Don Caskey, and I went out to find a well for this new titanium company that is going up on Route 30 outside of
I know exactly where you're at.
Roger
So
Geyser.
this is recently then?
Roger Geyser.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he wanted to build out there, and he wanted the water supply, so he called Caskey, who he knew apparently did this, and Caskey called me, and I said, let's go out together.
Mm-hmm.
And we did. We walked over that 30 acres out there, and we both came to the same conclusion that this is a spot to drill.
Mm-hmm.
We had different places, but he wanted one in a certain area, and we found this one in that area, and the stake went in, and that's where it was drilled. Well, I don't know the water supply. It was far greater than he expected, and he's very happy with it. The last I talked to him just recently. So
you did good.
so we think we did pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
The next person would say you would have gotten the same water any place at all. So, you know, it's a 50-50 deal here, because I would say about 50% of the people believe in it and 50% don't. I never did until I had to one time to dig up a leach bed for a septic tank.
Okay.
And I learned how to do it, and I learned it through that project there, and finding tile under the ground, and so that's how.
You kind of lit up a little bit when I mentioned Hofacre. Did you know the Hofacres, or?
Well, I knew, not personally, I knew that they lived there,
Just
and,
knew of them.
and I know they had a son, I forget his name now, but
Clarence.
Clarence. Then there's, I don't know. See, after I left home, I lost out on a lot of people that grew up and had children, and I would talk to their children, and here I thought I was talking to the people that I knew.
Oh, okay, yeah. Now,
That happened several times. Here it was so long ago, and I thought it was practically yesterday, and I was talking to him, and well, that was my dad that you're talking about.
I guess Delno Orr and Clayton would have been younger than you then?
A little.
A little
Yes,
bit. Did
yeah.
you know them very well, or know them much
Not
of it?
well. I knew them after I grew up.
Okay.
I mean, I
Oh, I just wondered any old memories of them. or-
don't. Okay, I was going to ask you a question, but
Go ahead, here. How about bank robberies? I had put in there train wrecks. You said you remember a few times where the train dropped off the tracks, but
yeah, that's about it.
I mean, it looks like I hit the nail on the head with the vacations or long trips. The Washington D.C. trip. That was something that
Yeah.
not everybody took. Were the downtown movies before your time?
They were no, they were during the time I was in college and when I left home. Yeah, those were.
Did you listen to the radio as a young boy?
Oh, that's the part I wanted to tell you. I was building radios out in the farm there before anybody had any around there. I made little crystal sets. You familiar with those?
Yes, I am.
Did you ever hear one of those?
No.
Well, they just fascinated me, and my brother too. In fact, we'd build them together, and he would build one, I'd build one, and we'd try to outdo the other. He stuck with his and went to Valparaiso Radio Institute in Indiana, and he stayed with radio. He died when he was running the head of the radio station in Marion, Ohio, when he died. So he stayed with it all of his life. He built a transmitter when we were on the farm. He used code. used a Ford spark coil, they called it, from a Model T
Uh-huh.
Ford. And this was used in transmitting his doing the communicating.
Who was he talking to?
Other
There were
radio
other people out there that were
Yeah,
doing.
yeah. Now the Schofter brothers in Mount Eaton, did you ever hear of them?
Yes, I did.
They were they were a little older than we were, but they had one of the earliest ham stations. I have one right here,
Mm-hmm.
which I can get anything you want to hear on.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they had one of the early stations for amateur radio, and I used to stay up practically all night listening to them talking to other people,
Okay.
and other people too. And then I started building tube sets where you had to use tubes, and I got into Germany and just all over with that one.
Mm-hmm.
But the one I was going to tell you about is I made it out of rolled oats box.
Okay.
Wound wire on it, and then I got another smaller one and put inside of that one, and it turned.
And that's how you tuned it?
Yeah, and then we had and then I made a condenser out of tin foil and wax paper,
Uh-huh.
and worked that in. Then I had headphones something like those over there, and a big long wire running from the attic window clear down 50 feet from the house to a pole.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get music so loud that I could hook up a loudspeaker, and I'd go to bed, and I'd go to bed with music, and I wouldn't have to worry about turning it off because there's no batteries.
I'm sorry, there's what?
No batteries.
No batteries?
No batteries. at
So
all.
you could pick up signal and amplify it
Yeah,
even without batteries.
yeah,
That is amazing.
it is, and I just wish I had that little set yet.
Mm-hmm.
But somewhere it got away, and that's not one of my things I can.
Could you tell where it was coming from? Like how far away the radio stations were?
Oh yeah,
I mean, what was it? Pittsburgh? Was it Cleveland? I mean,
Pittsburgh, Cleveland, KMOX, St. Louis.
okay, you could pick up KMOX,
Oh yes.
and this would be when you're in the 20s. I mean, excuse me, in the 1920s, you think, or what?
This was about 1930.
About 1930.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. And my brother was doing the same thing.
Okay.
We had it down pretty good. And oh my, I could just go on and on about that.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing more to say than the fact that, well, about in the late 30s, my folks got a radio, maybe a little earlier. I guess when I come home from college one time, they had a radio, and it had one of these Willie Gibbs that keeps the battery charged. What do you call it? Wind charger.
Okay.
Propeller up in the roof. The wind drives
Okay.
a generator, and it keeps your 6-volt battery, which they used at that time.
Mm-hmm.
They keep that charged all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You used to have to stop your radio for a few days and take it to town and get your battery charged.
Okay.
But this stayed charged all the time.
Okay.
So that was before we got to electricity.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Amish would come over and visit us when we had some early radio, or when we had our radios.
Mm-hmm.
They would come over and they say, "Well, no, what makes that work? Who's in there? What does that?"
Could you make them understand, or was it just beyond them?
Well, we tried to tell them about the airwaves and
Uh-huh.
so on, but I think we were as puzzled to explain it as they were to ask a question. So we didn't really know either. But
Did you pick up any Dutch or German when you were young?
no, because all of those that spoke it went together, and when they talked it, and then when somebody like me would come up close to learn something, they'd break it up and speak English.
Oh,
See,
okay.
and every time that worked like that.
How have the Amish changed since you were young?
Well, not a whole lot, but it's softening around the edges a little bit here and there. But I see my friend Ida Miller Yoder once in a while, who had 12 children, lives down here near the old schoolhouse. And she's my age or maybe a little older.
A little bit older. She's 90.
And I see her once in a while. She says, I always liked Myron Martin because he never made fun of the Amish.
Really? Wow.
And most of them made fun of the Amish
Mhm.
in school, and they didn't associate too well sometimes, because some of the Germans, or the Swiss types, they would speak German, but they kind of made fun of the Amish more so, I think, than the ones that didn't speak any other language. But I always rather admired them and still do.
She went to your one-room school then?
Yeah.
And she lived in East Union Township?
She's living yet.
Okay. What was her name again?
Ida Yoder.
Yoder.
She lives. If you go down Longsleger Road past the schoolhouse
Mm-hmm.
to the end,
Mm-hmm.
turn right on Kansas Road,
Mm-hmm.
cross the bridge,
Mm-hmm.
and the first lane to your left, a big red barn.
Some of her family has a little
They have a
store
little
back there now.
store there now, sell bulk foods.
That would be north of the airport, of course.
Tell you that where the Preferred Air Parts is now, where where the
Mhm.
airport is.
Mhm.
There used to be a cheese factory sitting right there where the hangar is now.
Okay.
Or
Did not know that.
One of the hangars. And I used to haul milk from our farm up through the woods, and then hit Hackett Road up there above the woods, and go down over the hill,
Mm-hmm.
across the bridge, and then the cheese factory would be there.
Mhm.
And a fellow named Gottlieb Sauser, S-A-U-S-E-R, direct from Switzerland, was a cheese maker and owner there. And he had a helper there too from Switzerland. I can't think of his name now. And for a while, I can remember hauling our milk there, and they had a big crane, and they would swing the cans in on the platform, and they would dump them into the big kettle and make cheese. And then they make it in the big wheel like this,
Mm-hmm.
and then they store them up there in the house that's still standing, with the door that opens to under the. It's an outside entrance to the basement.
There's Neil Hostetler lives in an old house right there behind the Preferred. Is that the house you're talking about?
It's on. No, this is on
West.
Hackett Road, right beside.
It's
It's
just west of the
the
airport.
it's the corner house
Mm-hmm.
before you hit Kansas Road.
Okay, I got
On
you.
your left, I think
All
it's
right.
a yellow house.
Oh, okay, okay,
I believe
It's
that's-
still there.
Yeah.
okay.
Eli Onstutz used to live in the farm back of the cheese factory there.
Okay. So they would store it in the basement, the wheels?
Yeah,
Right.
they had an underground
Mhm.
storage place there, kept it cool, same temperature,
Mm-hmm.
So we'd go in there sometimes, and we'd go in, and he'd take us up there and give us a little taste of the cheese before he bought it, and we'd get a big chunk of it,
Mm-hmm.
cut it pie-shaped piece out like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but that's very few people can remember that cheese factory being there. But
How did you get? Did you have horses in a cart or horses in
One
a
horse.
sled? One horse.
yeah, and a spring wagon they call it.
Spring wagon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Is that like the kind of wagons you see behind the Amish
yeah,
right now?
yeah.
Okay. And you had a path through the woods and everything. that
Yeah,
you would...
we had a cow lane that went up to the woods.
Uh-huh.
Then we had
Come out about where Alonzo Orr built a house there.
yeah, then we had a little path back there with a gate.
Mm-hmm.
Then we opened the gate and went down.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
See, those are good stories. Those are great stories that people,
Yeah,
wouldn't remember.
another one I thought of, nobody knows anything about anymore, it seems. Riceland once had an airport.
Okay, didn't know that.
The northwest corner, the northeast corner of the intersection there of Orville Road and 30.
Okay.
It would be the
East.
north of the old Rice home. That's the brick home that's right there on the
Okay.
corner. Tommy Rice built that home. And
Anyway.
I remember my dad talking about, but I'm not that old to remember the airport.
The Royal Poorman was his name, and he was from Massillon or Canton, down in there someplace. And he had a old Waco plane, and he had a little hangar built out there, and he kept the plane there. And every weekend he'd come over and give rides.
Mm-hmm.
And I would take the bicycle and ride over there. And
Did you get a ride then?
no, I didn't ride.
Okay.
I didn't have the money, nor did I have the desire to. I was funny, as much as I like airplanes and as much as I know about them and read about them, I never had the nerve to get up and fly.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I would have made my own.
Mhm.
Because I could have,
Yeah, sure.
if I would have applied some knowledge to, just like they do in making the kits today. You know,
Mhm.
they make them at home. They don't always fly, but
Mhm.
they
Sure.
try.
Amazing. So that was in the. If you rode your bicycle, that
That
would
was
be
about 1930.
about right around 1930. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 20, 29, 30, 30, in there someplace.
Dad and Mother moved into the house where I was born in the summer of 27. And for some reason Dad always remembered that. But that's the only person until I met him that I ever heard talk
Mhm.
about that.
My cousin John Smith from Massillon, who was in the oil business,
Okay.
was president of the Riceland Aviation Company.
Mm-hmm.
And his son now, who is John Smith also, lives down near Massillon. He and I talk about this quite a bit. We've been trying to find some connections to get a story on this and get some pictures, but we can't find anybody.
Of the airport, you mean?
Yeah,
Okay.
of the airplane or any of the Poorman family that even knows about it.
Mm-hmm.
We just can't find anybody.
Hmm.
But it would make a good story for the Orville
Sure.
paper. I mean the Worcester paper for
Mhm.
Orville News. But can't find anybody that knows enough about it.
Mhm.
I mentioned it to the correspondence with the people that write for the Worcester Record, but
Mhm.
they haven't taken it on to themselves to look it up, and I don't know whether they could even find anything if they did.
You mentioned you donated some of the old glass negatives to the Wayne County Historical Society.
Oh yeah,
And did any of those have background? I mean, like landscapes or things that. So go ahead.
apparently I'm the only person that they can find that has a picture of that church.
Okay.
I don't know of anyone else, and so I gave Bonnie Knox,
Mm-hmm.
who's in this
Yeah, Cemetery Association.
cemetery
Yeah.
association.
So
I
she
got-
has the negative then?
I have the negative
Oh.
here, but she got the pictures. I got some pictures made for her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where. Oh, the negative is right here, I think. It was. I've been going through these, and I've probably got it. Here it is, I believe. Yeah, here it is.
I'll be. So this would be East Union Township too. You know, I got a picture of that, I think.
You do.
Hang on just a second. See if I got it right behind me.